Major indices on Wall Street rise, led by tech stocks as Nvidia reaches a new milestone, while Asia-Pacific markets are mixed after US President Donald Trump announced a 50% tariff on US imports from Brazil. Beginning from the 1st of August, the GIFT Nifty is indicating a subdued start. Oil prices remain steady even as investors weigh on strong US gasoline demand data and attacks on ships in the Red Sea. Gold prices edge higher with a firmer dollar capping further gains. In a new round of tariff letters, Donald Trump dictates new US tariff rates on Algeria, Philippines, Sri Lanka, among other countries. He also adds that the US would impose a 50% tariff on Brazilian imports, citing a quote-unquote very unfair trade relationship between the two countries. IT major TCS is set to report its first quarter numbers today, kicking off the June earnings season. The company is expected to report a 0.5% rise in its dollar revenue, while its net profit may dip on a sequential basis. Sources have also told CNBC TV 18 that the Indian government aims to complete the stake sale in IDBI Bank by this October. Also, shares of LIC will be in focus today, as sources say that there has been an approval granted for an offer for sale for the company. It is the start of the earnings season and there is a lot to track this morning. We'll tell you all about that in the next 30 minutes on Power Breakfast in the Mumbai News Center. I am Hormuz Fatakia. Let's take a look at how the Asian markets have started off though. It's a fairly okay start, if you could call it that, for the Asian markets, especially considering that Wall Street ended yesterday's session on a positive note. The Hang Seng trading above the flat line was an underperformer yesterday. The Taiwanese index also trading gains of around 0.3%. So subdued gains for these markets. The Nikkei, though, in Japan is the underperformer today. The only index that is trading in the red this morning with around a 0.5% cut. The Kospi is continuing to outperform, trading with gains of around 0.8%. So, and the Shanghai Composite too trading above the flat line as of now. So, a largely positive picture coming in from the Asia Pacific, barring the Nikkei in Japan. You pull up the GIFT Nifty, that will give you an idea of how our own markets are likely to start off. Well, just as where we ended yesterday's trading session, the implied open still only a 12-point uptick. Also considering the fact that today being the weekly options expiry for the Nifty contracts, you need to keep that in mind as well. It was a good session on Wall Street, albeit it was a choppy one. The S&P 500 and the Dow Jones gained around about 0.5%, but it was the Nasdaq that ended as the outperformer in yesterday's session, closing at a record high, and it was courtesy the gains that were seen in Nvidia. CNBC's Angelica Pebbles gets us a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
U.S. markets were up across the major indexes in Wednesday trading, with Nvidia leading the rally after hitting a point never before reached by a public company. The Dow climbing 218, the S&P 500 gained 38, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq hitting an all-time high, up 193 points. A milestone in the markets Wednesday as Nvidia hit a $4 trillion market cap, the first company ever to do so. Shares were up about 2% as investors keep buying the chipmaker, which is a huge supplier of the hardware powering the AI boom. Nvidia surpassed both Microsoft and Apple to become the most valuable company in the world. The California-based company hit a $3 trillion valuation just last month. And Linda Yaccarino stepped down Wednesday as the CEO of Elon Musk's X platform. Yaccarino was hired shortly after Musk bought Twitter in 2023 for $44 billion. Yaccarino did not give a reason for her departure in a post on X, but a person familiar with the matter told NBC News that it's been in the works for over a week. Elon Musk responded to her post, writing, quote, "Thank you for your contributions." That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back to you in Mumbai.
Angelica Peebles, thank you for that update. In fact, let's listen into what Jeremy Siegel had to say on Nvidia and its current valuations, and also what JP Morgan Asset Management's Gabriela Santos believes the way forward is for the markets.
We don't try to time the market because it will fool you, and in the long run, it has a lot of positive forces. Listen, NVIDIA is an absolutely incredible company and deserves a $4 trillion valuation. What I'd like to see, Scott, is not just the producers of AI benefit so much. I want to see the users of AI, the firms actually implement the AI advances to cut their costs. And I think they're going to have to do it very soon facing some of these tariff price increases. Starting next week, I want to hear how firms say their guidance is going to be for third quarter, and I think second quarter earnings are going to be fine. I always thought that any effect from tariffs really would not be felt until the second half of this year because of all the pre-buying that took place in that first quarter. So we're now, right in July. This is the time that if tariffs are going to have a negative effect, we will hear from it from the firms. We will, hear it from the consumer. And I think that that's really going to probably be a big part of our focus in July. If we don't hear much bad effects, boy, this bull market certainly, I think, has further to run. If we begin to hear, while there's some hurdles that are harder to overcome, then we're going to see choppiness, I think, this quarter.
We had a very resilient stock market because over time, the economy and large cap corporate earnings have become less sensitive to moves in rates. And why would we expect anything different on the way down when interest rates are gradually coming down? What we don't believe is really an investment to chase here is much more the pockets of the market that require lower rates and reaccelerating growth to actually work. So to your question, still large cap over small cap, and still avoiding areas of the market that have gotten beat up but that are still challenged, like retail, like home builders. It's just not quite that environment. It's still a soggy economic growth with elevated rates.
Now, Lori Calvasina, who is the head of the U.S. market strategist at RBC Capital Markets, believes that the tariff impact so far has not been inflationary. And accounting all of that in, they have a target of 5,700 on the S&P by the end of this year. Listen in.
Investors have definitely moved to a much more constructive place in terms of the impact of those tariffs. It does suggest that if we actually do end up seeing some inflationary impacts, if we do get some reverberations in labor data, say cost cutting from companies, that I think investors are going to be negatively surprised by that. But I'll tell you, John, it really has to do with our sentiment and our valuation and earnings work. When we kind of put all those conversations aside and we look at our earnings and valuation modeling, our base case is for 57.30. If I really stretch and pull inflation down to 2% and boost earnings for this year, I can get you up to 6,200 on that modeling. But we're really having to stretch to get there. We took the materials sector up to overweight. This was the result of a process where we go and we talk to our analysts all around the globe. I was just focused here on the U.S., but we found that we really did have some pretty high degree of conviction in terms of performance going forward in the materials sectors for most of the industries within that sector, ranging from sort of the metal side to the chemicals and packaging side.
All that as part of our global markets coverage from last night. We take a short break. On the other side, we'll tell you how will all of this impact our own markets in our Power Prep segment. Our research team joins in on the other side. Stay tuned. Back with us here on Power Breakfast. Across to our research team now, who is joining in to set you up for today's trading session, an all-important one. Firstly, Vivek joins in to get all the market cues that you need to watch out for today. Vivek, good morning. The start of earnings season, weekly expiry, plenty of triggers. But what are you watching out for this morning?
Well, that's right, Harmaz. So, officially you could say that the earnings season kicks off today. TCS post-market house will declare its results and all eyes will be on that. Remember, it will give significant cues as far as the entire IT pack is concerned. Just quickly wrap up what overnight transpired. Number one, you did see US markets end on a significant high. Actually seeing NVIDIA go ahead and hit the $4 trillion market cap as well. Crude oil prices largely stable, and again, this is something that we've been watching out for quite closely. Brent hovering around the $70 a barrel mark. Now, coming to the Indian markets, remember, Indian markets last few trading sessions has clearly been a very stock-specific market, with the Nifty actually not going anywhere. Yesterday, too, a largely flattish rate-bound session as far as the benchmarks were concerned. IT stocks ended lower ahead of TCS results today, and the Nifty IT index was one of the top drags. NBFCs as well as FMCG were the stocks, or were the sector that managed to go ahead and aid the performance as far as the overall markets were concerned. Individual stocks in focus, well, GAIL ended lower. There appears to be some delay as far as the tariff hike implementation is concerned. IEX was in focus, some further commentary as far as market coupling was concerned, and that was another stock that did very well in the session today. Asian markets, GIFT Nifty, all indicating a slightly positive start for our markets today.
Indeed, keep an eye out on that. And just as we said that, the implied open from a 12 to 15 point uptick has now turned into a 12 to 15 point downtick. So, promises to be yet another choppy day. Lots of stocks that you will have to watch out for today. Ria is here to highlight all of these. Good morning, Ria.
Good morning, Hormuz. Let's take a look at the stocks that are likely to be in focus today. The first one is Akzo Nobel. Now, Asian Paints has sold about 4.42% equity in the company for rupees 734 crores. So keep your eye out on the stock today. The next one is Enviro Infra. The JV has received an order worth about rupees 395 crores from Maharashtra Industrial Development Corporation. The next one is Ambuja Cement. The subsidiary ACC Cement has commissioned a grinding unit project at the plant in Jharkhand for 1.5 MTPA. And remember, the total installed cement capacity for the company is about 104 MTPA. Also keep your eye out on Emcure Pharma. Now, the US FDA has concluded an inspection at one of the manufacturing facilities of the company, but this time without the issuance of Form 483. For Muthoot Capital Services, they have approved the issuance of about 12,500 NCDs up to rupees 125 crores. Indosolar Limited will also be on the radar today. The promoter Vari Energies is likely to sell about 2.4% stake on July 10th and 11th. And lastly, for Embassy REIT, sources say that APAC company is likely to sell about 1.9% equity of the company via block deals, and the deal size for this one is likely to be rupees 681 crores.
Ria, thanks a lot for that entire list. And Sudarshan lastly joins in with cues from the FNO space. Sudarshan, good morning. It's almost been a snooze mode market over the last 1 week.
It's like a status quo type. You can call it a muted range bound trade, consolidation phase. But in simple term, nothing has been happening in the market for the last few days. If you take a look at the highs and lows of a day before yesterday and yesterday, it's almost the same. Just last hour cut yesterday that we saw mainly because of the sharp fall that we saw in Reliance, and at the end all the major indices closed in the red. Even for today also, GIFT Nifty is indicating a muted start. Even the flows front, things are looking very muted. FIs have bought almost rupees 80 crore. Even DIs have bought more than rupees 900 crore. In the index futures too, FI's sell figure was around rupees 1,000 crore. They have added long position of 640 contracts, but in front of that they have added short positions, and their addition is 4,550 contracts. Now, FI's long exposure has reduced to around 27.7%. On the option front also, 25,500 call has seen maximum addition, and their addition is 75 lakh shares. Even on the put side also, 25,500 put has seen addition of nearly 9 lakh shares, and another put that was active was 25,350. One stock that remains in the band is RBL, and new entrant is Hind Copper. As far as support and resistance for Nifty is concerned, it remains the same. Support 25,300 and resistance around 25,700.
Indeed, keep an eye out on Hindustan Copper today, particularly so because Donald Trump has made this official announcement that the copper tariffs, that 50% tariff, will be effective from the 1st of August. Now, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman called out on NBFCs to significantly scale up their role in the financial system. Speaking at an NBFC conclave, Sitharaman said that the NBFCs are no longer shadow banks but systemically significant entities. Listen to what she had to say.
You should aim to reach at least 50% of the total volume disbursed by scheduled commercial banks. Not a big number, considering in the last 4 years, you've doubled. 24 became 48. You can do it even now. So, as India moves forward, NBFCs will have a key role, no doubt, in meeting the credit needs of the future, including in areas like green initiatives, affordable housing, and MSMEs. To reach, and the reach that you have is the biggest strength that you have. By 2047, at least 50% of NBFC credit should be directed towards high growth and high impact sectors. NBFCs, I want to tell you in front of the Department of Financial Services Secretary, you're no longer shadow banks. The stronger regulations and oversight is the best testimony. The stronger regulation and oversight is the best testimony of your importance in the financial system and the broader economy.
Nirmala Sitharaman there on the NBFCs. They've been a talking point over the last couple of months as well. But the big trigger of the day, earnings season officially begins today, especially for the Nifty companies as well. And it will be started off by TCS reporting its quarterly results. Of course, after market hours today, Rima is here with what the street is anticipating from India's largest IT services company. Rima.
So as you rightly pointed out, expect a bit of a muted quarter. Dollar revenue growth is seen up 0.6%, but constant currency revenue growth is expected to decline by nearly 1.5%. The reason you're seeing such a disparity in the dollar revenue growing and the constant currency declining is on account of the currency move. So there's been a sharp depreciation of the US dollar versus some of the other currencies like the pound, the euro and the yen, and that explains. But in constant currency, that's the main number that we watch, expect a decline of nearly 1.5%. Margins are likely to be flat on a sequential basis. Remember, this time there were no wage hikes. Typically, the company gives wage hikes in Q1, but on account of the uncertainty, they had deferred it. And the reason why the revenue is expected to be weak is because compared to the prior few quarters, the BSNL contract is ramping down. And the question that analysts have on the margins is that as this BSNL contract ramps down, and BSNL had low margins, some analysts estimate just single-digit margin. So then why aren't the margins expanding? Because our poll throws margins to be on the flatter side. Now, what will you watch? The growth X of BSNL, the international growth, because analysts say that despite good deal wins, the growth has been pretty muted for the international business. Secondly, timing of the wage hike because it was deferred from Q1. And thirdly, the deal wins.
Rima, thanks a lot for that. All eyes on TCS all through the day and, of course, after market hours when the results are out. Take a short break. On the other side, our special segment, Trump Watch. Stay tuned. Welcome back. I'm getting you the latest now on the Donald Trump related developments. Dia is here in our special segment, Trump Watch. Dia.
Starting off with a fresh wave of U.S. tariffs, President Donald Trump has unveiled a new round of tariff demand letters, including a 50% rate on Brazil, one of the highest announced so far. The tariffs set to take effect in August also include a 30% levy on Algeria, Libya, Iraq and Sri Lanka. Brunei and Moldova will see 25% duties, while products from the Philippines will be taxed at 20%. The rates are broadly in line with figures Trump floated back in April, though there are slight adjustments, with Iraq's duties reduced from 39% and Sri Lanka's lowered from 44%. In response, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has said that his country would act with reciprocity. The Bank of England has also weighed in, warning that the unpredictability of U.S. tariffs, along with escalating trade tensions between Washington and Beijing, could pose risks to UK's financial stability. The central bank also added that ongoing conflicts in Iran, Gaza and Ukraine further compound those risks. On the diplomatic front, Trump is signaling progress on a Gaza ceasefire deal. Speaking as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visits the U.S. and meets officials at the Pentagon, Trump said negotiators are very close to an agreement between Israel and Hamas, raising hopes for a breakthrough in the long-stalled truce efforts. Listen in.
Well, we're talking about Gaza for the most part. I think we have a chance this week or next week. Not definitely. There's nothing definite about war and Gaza and all of the other places that we all deal with so much. But there's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement, an agreement of some kind this week and maybe next week if not.
And lastly, in domestic developments, Trump said his administration is weighing whether to take control of Washington, D.C. to help combat crime. The move would mark a dramatic shift, potentially ending the capital's 5-decade history of home rule. That's all for today. Now back to you, Hormaz.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that update. Interesting developments with regards to the US president from last night. Now, Russia targeted Ukraine yet again with a record 728 drones early on Wednesday, just hours after US President Donald Trump pledged to send more defensive weapons to Kyiv and aimed unusually sharp criticism at Russian President Vladimir Putin. Here's the report.
Russia targeted Ukraine with a record 728 drones overnight on Tuesday into Wednesday. It came shortly after US President Donald Trump pledged to send more defensive weapons to Kyiv and aimed direct criticism at Russian President Vladimir Putin. Ukrainian air defense units destroyed almost all the drones, including through electric jamming systems, Ukraine's Air Force said on the Telegram messaging app. Reuters was unable to independently verify the date and location of this footage, said to be Lutsk when it was released by the State Emergency Service of Ukraine on Wednesday. The northwestern city of Lutsk, close to Poland, was the main target, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Telegram. He listed 10 other provinces where damage was also reported. The attack follows a series of escalating air assaults on Ukraine in recent weeks. Zelensky said it showed the need for sanctions on the sources of income Russia uses to finance the war. Trump said on Tuesday he was considering supporting a bill in the Senate that would impose steep sanctions on Russia, including 500% tariffs on nations that buy Russian oil, gas, uranium, and other exports.
We're not happy with Putin. I'm not happy with Putin. I can tell you that much right now, because he's killing a lot of people. And a lot of them are his soldiers and their soldiers, mostly. And it's now up to 7,000 a week. We get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
Trump has shifted US rhetoric away from staunch support for Kyiv towards accepting some of Moscow's justifications for the full-scale invasion it launched in 2022. But initial rounds of talks between Russia and Ukraine have so far borne little fruit. The US president's promise to supply more defensive weapons reversed a Pentagon decision days earlier to stall some critical munition supplies to Ukraine.
With that, we call time on this edition of Power Breakfast from me and the team that put this show together. Thank you so much for watching, but don't go anywhere. Badhar Morning Call takes over on the other side to set you up for the day's trade.